All right. So I just want to welcome you guys to How to Overcome Sugar Cravings webinar. This is something that I've been trying to do for you guys for the longest time, mainly because this is probably one of the biggest problems that we have facing not just the whole world, but for the whole world in general, but mainly Americans in particular. And knowing how self-centered and conceited we are, I guess this is definitely a great topic to kind of just keep this focused on Americans. And if you agree, just say yes. All right. So, just to give you a little bit about myself, my name is Duran Singh. I am Fit Body Bootcamp owner. Currently run two of the locations. I'm looking to open up more just to help you guys out in regards to helping you guys reach your health and fitness goals. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and I would not see myself doing anything differently. This is one thing I love doing, and one thing I can definitely tell you before I go forward is just, guys, just live your passion and do what you love to do. Because if you do what you love to do, you'll never call any single day work or what you do a job. Um, just because, like, just for example, this right here, this is something I don't need to really do, but it's something I actually enjoy doing and love doing, and I definitely know it's going to help bring some more information and knowledge to you guys, because the more educated you are, the more free you become. And that's one thing I definitely am very keen on, is educating people and teaching people what's right, especially because when it comes down to our health and fitness industry, nutritional science is a very, very um, naive science, because a lot of people have overlooked it. But until as of recently, I would probably say probably because of the 1970s and a little bit earlier than that, we started seeing how people's health issues had became more detrimental, and then we started noticing how people have been dying a lot more because they don't take care of their health as they should. So what I'm going to teach you today, what you're going to learn today, is 4 ways to overcome sugar cravings that you can do now. You know, it's almost a matter, once we finish this webinar, these are 4 things that you can definitely do. But before we even get into that, I must warn you guys, but the more you're going to learn today, the more you're going to become scared of the thing that we're going to be talking about called sugar. And the reason why is because sugar is deadly. So repeat after me, guys. Sugar is deadly. Yes, it is more. It is probably the most addicting thing on the face of the earth, and it has killed every. It has killed more people than any other type of metabolic disorder, combined. If you look at every single thing, every type of illness, I can guarantee you that it all has originated from a high consumption of sugar. And there, and we're gonna get into a little bit more later on. Um, but sugar truly is sugar. But for this purpose of this webinar, we're gonna talk about added sugar and refined sugar, and you're gonna understand the difference of natural sugar compared to refined sugar also, and why one is a lot worse than the other. And just to give you guys some facts, um, about the average American, eats about 130 pounds of sugar a year. And if you guys were want to know what that could be equivalent to, that's about eating, 1,700,900,000 Skittles, guys. That is quite a bit of Skittles. I'm not sure how much is in just a bag of Skittles. I would say probably 50 or so. And I'm terrible at math, but I can assure you that's a lot of bag of Skittles right there. And, just imagine, it definitely will correlate to why people are gaining weight at such a fast rate, and why it's hard to get off, because if you don't know what's putting the weight on, you don't know how to get it off. And it could be as simple as doing 2 things: doing more of something or doing less of something. And for this instance, it's us doing a lot less of consuming sugar. And if you agree, just say yes. All right. And just another fact to give you guys too, we eat about 765 grams of sugar every 5 days, and about 53 gallons of soda. So once again, no wonder we are becoming fatter and fatter as we are speaking and listening on this webinar right now. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. One of my big things is saying, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. But in their case, in regards to sugar, the men and women, is true. I mean, just look at people's bodies. Look at how people are shaped nowadays. They're shaped as though they're just consuming so much sugar that their body doesn't know where to put it other than their hips, their stomach, and their butt. And then once again, they have issues of trying to figure out why they're gaining so much weight. And if you want to get one thing out of this webinar, whether it's a great webinar or you think it's bad, if you just cut back on sugar, you are going to gain so much insight just from that small solution, because the simplest, most sophisticated things in life are really simple. Are simple. Yes, I'm sorry. The simplest things in life are very sophisticated. I apologize. Now it's kind of going forward. It's not about calories. I think we're headed into the future, understanding that it's no longer about calories. Where we all see, read the nutritional packages, and it says 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat. But believe it or not, a calorie is not a calorie, guys. Every single thing is actually considered different. There's fat calories, there's protein calories, and there's carbohydrate calories, and there's even alcoholic calories too, which there's not labeled on packages. But it's a matter of is getting away from the word calorie, because a lot of people track calories, but if you don't know what you're tracking, you really don't know what you're measuring. A calorie is defined as really the energy value of food, and it really was a great way for people to kind of figure out how to track their weight. And I think the calorie came about during the 1970s too. A lot of things happened in the 1970s. I think even the personal training boom began in the 1970s too as well, and made way for just lots of things in our health and fitness industry. But a calorie is really defined as the amount of energy needed to heat up water. Pretty much that's really what a calorie is. So it's not something that's going to actually create some type of metabolism, in regards to functioning. But if you look at it that way, it's proved that you actually need calories to actually lose weight. Where we don't look at it that way. We actually look at reducing calories to lose weight, but our bodies need calories to actually function properly. Our bodies need the energy to do certain things. But it's not a calorie. Is not a calorie. Is not a calorie. It's a matter of what types of calories what we are eating that actually make the biggest difference for our bodies. And that's why, once again, different foods affect our bodies and our hormones. So hormones, that is the most important thing that we need to understand, guys. It's the hormones that are going to make the biggest thing for us, because hormones, the way our hormones are affected in our body, is going to tell our bodies if we want to gain weight or lose weight. We're not going to get into a lot in this webinar, but insulin, for example, is what is released when you consume a certain amount of sugar. Insulin is best defined as the fat storage hormone. So repeat after me: fat storage hormone. Fat storage hormones, it's pretty self-explanatory. They're hormones that are going to actually allow your body to accumulate fat. So when you have excess insulin pumping into your bloodstream, your body is going to go into fat storage mode. And we're going to get into this later on, but we're going to talk about why our bodies prefer to be fat. And it's almost like we have to fight our bodies every single day. And that's why it's hard. It really is, guys. I say kind of interchangeably. Sometimes I say losing weight is easy, but sometimes I say losing weight is hard. But losing weight is hard if, our hormones are not doing their job properly. And that, once again, it comes to us not knowing what we're doing is right or wrong. And once again, that is the purpose of this webinar, to teach you guys what is right and what is wrong. And we became very, very big advocates of blaming fat since the 1970s for why we've been gaining so much weight for decades and decades. And with the effect of what's called the fat hypothesis, and the fat hypothesis is pretty much was saying that consuming excess fat is what's making us fat. But believe it or not, fat does not make you fat. Eating certain foods make you fat. Because I can tell you, you can eat, a mid-rare steak and be perfectly fine doing that. But if you were to sit down and eat 20, 30, 40 apples at one sitting, guess what? That's going to put on some weight for you, because once again, fat does not release insulin, so it can't actually store fat. However, carbohydrates, or in this example, sugars actually release insulin, so those will actually allow you to store all that sugar for fat. But because of the fat hypothesis, people started getting scared of fat. But what was the effect of the fat hypothesis? There was no change. People were still getting sick and dying because they proved, it wouldn't prove, but they just, made a statement that fat was a problem, But what they end up doing was eating less fat and eating more sugar, which actually made the the whole epidemic, even worse. People started dying even more because they thought it was fat when it really was sugar. Because sugar is extremely toxic. Sugar in your bloodstream, too much sugar in your bloodstream is going to cause your arteries to pretty much go into what's called advanced glycation end product, which pretty much means it's going to cause a chemical reaction. And instead of making your arteries or your blood vessels, very flexible, it's going to make them very, very stiff. So one of the big benefits of our blood vessels is to what's called vasodilate. And vasodilate means it's going to allow more blood to get into our arteries, and blood actually carries oxygen to our working muscles and even our heart. But if it's not able to expand for the workload, especially if we're exercising, we're not going to get enough oxygen to those working muscles or the heart. So it causes us to gas out a lot faster, and it causes us to have to stop, short of breath more times than not. And especially if we're not even exercising, but we're consuming excess sugar, that just means we're not getting enough blood flow to our heart. And over time, what happens is it causes the heart attacks, because that stiffness of the arteries, because it can't constrict, is going to cause a lot of inflammation. And over time, inflammation is going to send what's called pretty much like an immune response, and that immune response is going to start pretty much causing a blockage in our arteries. And if we have a blockage for too long of a time, lack of blood flow to our heart is going to pretty much skip that beat, and then it just goes haywire from there. And that's how heart attacks happen. And there's a difference between heart attacks and cardiac arrest, where cardiac arrest is more so like your heart just stops functioning because it's more of a nervous system breakdown. But a heart attack or myocardial infarction, which is more the medical term for it, is when you don't get enough blood supply to your heart for you actually to come function properly. So that's why you can feel it coming. But your best bet is to stop this right here, guys, because sugar is very, very toxic, and it'll lead to that. But not only will it lead to heart attacks, but sugar is shown to lead an increase in obesity. Just look at the trend nowadays. So many people are becoming overweight. I mean, I'm seeing kids that are extremely obese that are becoming type 2 diabetic, and that's no one really should be type 2 diabetic, let alone type 1. Type 1 is a genetic disorder, which is really actually passed down from generations to generations. But type 2 diabetes, that's a scary thing, guys, and it's showing once again everything is starting with obesity, and people are saying obesity is a condition, and it is, and it's because it's a condition that we're creating for ourselves. And I would say like 95% of the things that we experience in regards to illnesses can be prevented from taking care of our health and our fitness, and close to 95% could be prevented from just cutting back on sugar alone. And that's one of this, increasing obesity. And once again, obesity rates have skyrocketed, and we already talked about this before, but it's caused an increase in heart disease, going back to heart attacks. Just like we wouldn't eat 22 packs of sugar, but we're still drinking them. That's why I like this picture I had put on here, and it's pretty much because we don't see what we're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can't, call yourself out because you don't know what it is. But that's pretty much what I look at myself as being, the person that's going to, keep you accountable for that matter. And you want someone to keep you accountable, yes? Exactly. Because if you don't, it's going to be a lot harder to keep yourself accountable, even though you should, but it's a lot better to have more people keep you accountable. And once again, with my Fit Body Bootcamp location, that's one thing we definitely strive a lot about, is keeping each other accountable, because it gets more and more difficult when you're trying to do things on your own. But once again, increasing heart disease, guys, that's something that's becoming more and more prevalent, and it should not be the case. And then we have headaches and migraines. I see this quite a bit. And, sugar is the number one cause of Alzheimer's disease and any type of, mental disorder too, where studies are showing a lot more now that sugar or all those mental diseases are really just insulin resistant insulin resistance of the brain, where our brains are not getting enough sugar because they become resistant to it. So they're pretty much pushing it away. And then it's not able to function properly. And there's only two parts of our bodies that actually need sugar. And it's actually our brain and it's our red blood cells. But they don't need much sugar. And believe it or not, if you cut back on your sugar and your body is in need of sugar, it's going to take the fat from your body and turn it into sugar through the process called beta oxidation. And what that means is it's going to take fat and convert it into sugar for you. So if you have stored body fat, which I'm going to say you guys all do because even I do, stored body fat is nothing but stored excess sugar that you are holding on. And when there's going to come to a time based off of, just our genetic makeup, which is still the same as, about almost 100,000 years ago. It has not changed since then. It's going to hold on to it unless it needs it. And it's doing that because it doesn't know if there's going to be a feast or famine. Our bodies don't interact with the outside world. It only interacts with what you and I do. So if we're constantly consuming food, especially with excess sugar, our bodies are just going to think, okay, we're definitely feasting because there's going to come to a time when there's no food available for us. So that's why our bodies are very quick to adapt and very prone to going into fat storage mode because it doesn't know when there's going to be that time of no longer having food available for us. And it's actually one of the best things that our bodies were able to do for itself, because if it wasn't able to do that, we would not be here right now talking on this webinar and listening, because it wasn't the survival of the fittest that made humans, survive for so long through time. It was us being the survival of the fattest. It was our ability to store fat and burn excess fat during times of famines that made us, able to be here right now. Now, one of the biggest things too is it actually will speed up your aging process. So if you realize people who consume lots of sugar look a lot older, yes? Yeah, they do. Because think about it. The best way to realize this is people who are overweight, they look a lot older. That's why when you start exercising, whether you do a Fit Body Bootcamp program or you work with a personal trainer or some other type of gym, you notice people who are overweight seem to look a lot older, even if they're the same age. But the moment they start dropping size, they start looking a lot younger. And it's almost like they're starting to look a lot like their true age, or a lot younger than their true age. Because we know, I know, and I know for a fact, I know some, it's not saying this because it's an old age, but I know some 60, 70, 80-year-olds that are in phenomenal shape, but you have never known that is their age because they take such great care of their health. And I say that for two reasons, because it proves to all of us that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still, look great. And two, it's a matter of you taking care of your body to reduce reduce your fitness age or how you look. So once again, it speeds up the aging process. It kind of goes back to what I call the advanced glycation end product, because it just breaks down your body, and it's almost like sugar is kind of like a dry desert that doesn't get any water. It just makes everything crack. It just cracks the whole surface of everything, your body, your skin, your hair, your nails. But if you're able to get enough nutrients, which sugar actually prevents your body from absorbing nutrients, it will definitely, prevent you from flourishing with that healthy body. This is the big one too, hormonal imbalances. And I'm going to kind of go, slide through these real quickly. But hormonal imbalances is going to be kind of like the depressions that we kind of face. And then we have arthritis. Arthritis because sugar crystallizes in our joints. And when it crystallizes in our joints, it's because, think about it. If you were to take a big thing of sugar and you were to heat it up, it's going to get hard. So it's kind of like rock candy. And if you're constantly, making a certain movement, it's constantly stabbing you. And that's why that inflammation will kind of occur from there. Big one is fatty liver. Fatty liver is when our bodies, because our livers can only hold a certain amount of excess sugar in what's called our glycogen. Gen means storage, and glyco meaning sugar, like glucose. So GLUCO, or GLY, excuse me. So you have storage of sugar. So excess sugar it will actually fatten your liver and slow down your metabolism. Because it's kind of like, think about this: if you put two people side by side, an overweight person and a very fit person, and you tell them to race, who's going to win? Obviously, the fitter person, and it's because the person who's overweight has a slower metabolism. Their body's not able to function as fast as someone that with a healthier liver. A weakened immune system is pretty much the sugar is actually going to cause your body to weaken itself, because with too much sugar, your body is too busy trying to metabolize all of it to put it towards your immune system. So it actually will reduce your amount of vitamin C, which is a huge, great vitamin to help you with your immune system. So, but too much sugar is actually going to reduce that to help you fight off or ward any sicknesses or even infections too. So that's why if you notice, people who consume lots of sugar get sick quite a bit. So keep that in mind when you are trying to eat that next, I don't know, milkshake or what. And once again, cause depression. This kind of goes back with our hormonal imbalances. And this is, I would say, one of the most important ones right here, guys. And it's because inflammation, every disease starts with inflammation. So I want you to look around, see if anyone's around you. There really shouldn't be. I think you guys should be, in a quiet room so you guys can hear me. But if there is, I want you to tell them, hey, I want you to know inflammation every disease starts with inflammation. And then repeat after me, every disease starts with inflammation, because it does. And one thing I want for you guys is to prevent that from happening to you. Inflammation is pretty much like a low settling flame, where it's kind of like where I speak a lot about this with a lot of my coaching clients about making changes too abruptly, where the body kind of goes out of whack. So, for example, if you were to take a frog and put it into boiling water, what's going to happen to that frog? Yes, that frog is going to burn, and then it's going to die. I know it sounds kind of sad, but it's just a story that helps a lot with visualization. Now, if I put a frog into water and slowly increase the temperature until it's a boiling temperature, guess what? That frog's not going to die, because that frog slowly got acclimated to that heat to where it's able to tolerate that. But, think about it. Is that temperature still good for that frog? Probably not. Inflammation is the exact same way. Inflammation is, or in this response, or in this account, this is going to be chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is like a low flame, constantly being pressured onto our bodies. But over time, that just causes more and more problems. So one of the biggest reasons why we have this is because we already talked about it. We've been talking about it for, past 20, 30 minutes, is because of too much sugar. So I want you to repeat after me. Sugar is bad. Now I want to ask you a question. Are you going to stop eating sugar? If so, say yes. Good. All right. Now let's move on. This is the last one I want to kind of go over, and then I'll kind of skip some slides. But it decreases your libido. Libido meaning your sexual drive and your urge. So, man, if you're out there, guess what? It's going to give you problems. Women, it's going to make sure that you don't have any type of urge to even get it on that night. Main reason why is, here's the biggest reason why it decreases your libido. Too much sugar in your body is causing too much inflammation. It's pretty much a sign to tell your body that you are not capable and not ready to have offspring. That's pretty much what it does, because this is a big indicator that if you do, if you're able to become, conceive and have be pregnant, your chances of a miscarriage are extremely high. This is one of the biggest reasons right here, where I see a lot of people try to force having children, and they have to try over and over again. And it's really because their sugar levels are too high in their bodies, and it's for men and women. But if you keep doing this, you're going to put yourself at a high risk for having a miscarriage. Not trying to scare you, just trying to be honest with that. So that way you guys are prepared and understand, the consequences and the dangers of having too much sugar. And then, it'll increase your moodiness and nervous. It'll make you nervous and cause fatigue, and it will lead to a higher risk of cancer. And the main reason why is because sugar feeds cancer cells. Repeat after me. Sugar feeds cancer cells. Only thing that cancer wants to eat is sugar. Too much sugar in your bodies is a great way to feed cancer cells. And when you feed cancer cells, what does it do? Yes, it grows, because what grows is going to cause change. And I speak about this a lot with my coaching clients. Change is good, but for this example, change is very, very bad. Now, let's get into more information. Now, why is sugar so deadly? Biggest reason why is because it has no nutritional value. Now, sugar is very, very acidic to our bodies. And when it's very acidic and it's in our digestive system, what the acidity does was it will actually pull vitamins and minerals into our body or into our gut system to balance out the acidic nature of it, because our bodies don't want it to be into a high state of acidity. I think that's what it's called. I don't know, but the reason why is because of this. A high acidic body will cause inflammation. That is why we don't want to do that. Now, not only that, because it suppress our immune system, and it will definitely decrease our potassium and magnesium, which are extremely, guys, listen to me. Potassium and magnesium are extremely essential for your cardiovascular health. We already kind of touched base on this for a little bit more than the other ones, but heart attacks are caused from too much sugar. It will increase your blood pressure. So once again, too much sugar without nutritional value will cause those problems. But not only that, but it will metabolically disrupt your hormones. And once again, the advanced glycation end product makes you age, or age because it ages you. It kind of makes no sense. But, once again, there are human errors with everyone. But here's a question for you. All right, if you give me permission to ask you a question, just say yes. If so, you can even actually ask me right here. Ask me a question, say yes, please. All right, question for you. Do you know how much sugar you are consuming? And, sorry, I actually should have asked you if I had permission to ask you two questions, but next one. How much sugar is too much? Let's look at some what do you call these? Pictures, diagrams, infographics. They're all called the same thing. To answer both, avoid added sugar at all costs. So, good way to do that. Well, I mean, now is this going to happen? Definitely not, because you guys are all Americans. Well, I think majority of us are Americans on here, and we're going to do it because, I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to be honest with you guys, and that's the only way I'm going to shoot it straight with you guys, even if it offends you or not. But I'm going to still probably have added sugar in my diet. I did it earlier today. I had my assistant, I was putting together some stuff for one of our challenges. I had my assistant go grab me a cup of coffee, and she brought it back. Just go ahead and put some heavy whipping cream in it, and I added some honey to it. And I was like, I used my spoon, of course. Oops. Used my spoon, and then, I probably did one spoonful, so pretty much 1 teaspoon. Poured it in there, stirred it up a little bit, took a sip, and I was like, man, this ain't sweet. So I felt really bad because I was like, man, I got to do a sugar webinar, and here I am pouring more, honey into this cup of coffee. But I'm saying that, guys, because I want to show you guys the polarity of even myself. Even though I'm put on this sugar webinar telling you that sugar can kill you and all this other stuff, doesn't mean you're going to eat sugar. You're probably going to definitely eat sugar. My main purpose of this webinar, however, is for you to eat a lot less of it. So even when I was putting this together, I became more, conscious of how much sugar consuming. And that's what I want for you guys too, is become more conscious of what you're doing. Because if you're not conscious of what you're doing, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get a lot of what you don't really want, if that makes sense. But avoid sugar at all costs. Now, 1 sugar cube, 1 teaspoon, 1 packet is pretty much 4 grams of sugar. And, you got to look at that also as, excuse me. No matter people say, sugar is sugar. It's pretty sad that this one little cup of Yoplait yogurt is the same amount that you can get in 2, I don't know what kind of donuts these are. I know when I was younger, I used to eat donuts all the time, but that's why I was a little chunky butt when I was younger. But these are probably one of my favorite ones. And just kind of give you a story. I was in Anaheim for a world conference. It was last year. Yeah, last year, 2016. Geez, last year. And it's funny because we were right by the Anaheim Angels, or Anaheim of Los Angeles, I guess they're called now. It's Angel Stadium, and it was a Krispy Kreme donut. And, being in Atlanta, you would figure that, Krispy Kreme donuts are pretty popular. Man, I kid you not, this Krispy Kreme donut place was packed out. There was a line in the drive-thru with probably over 40, 50 cars. And, man, I don't know how long it took me to get a donut. But the only reason why I went there was because I was with some great friends of mine, and they're from up north. They don't have Krispy Kreme donuts up north, so they were all about them. So I had to wait the storm, but I only had two. But it was amazing. I could have had just nice simple yogurt and have been the same amount of sugar. But 26 grams, 26 grams is practically what we are consuming on a daily basis. If that's a lot, say wow. Yes, it is a lot. That's why I said wow too. Now, biggest thing, sugar is non-essential for your body. What does that mean? Repeat after me. Body does not need it, or excuse me, body doesn't need it. So, does your body need sugar? No, it doesn't. What does your body need? It needs fats and proteins. Once again, I kind of touched base on this. If you don't, excuse me. What's up, guys? And I'll answer any questions from you guys later on. If your body doesn't need sugar, it will use fats and proteins as its main sources of energy. Once again, repeat after me. Sugar is non-essential. Essential meaning your body does not need it. Now, I did touch base that your brain and your red blood cells need sugar, but once again, through the process of breaking down fat into a sugar source, your body will use that as its source of energy. So you don't need sugar from outside sources because your body will use what you have in your body already as it is. Now, you really don't want to use protein too much as an energy source. You're going to use a little bit of it, but when you start breaking down too much of your proteins, it becomes a factor of you breaking down your lean muscle mass. And that's practically what happens when we start going into fasted states, whether it be a fasted state of chronic fasting or even acute fasting, which I'm a very big advocate about, mainly because that's naturally what our bodies are supposed to be doing. But that's when supplementation will help you out with branched chain amino acids, known as BCAAs, because what those will do is those will actually bypass your liver from being broken down. Because when you consume nutrients, the first place they all mainly go is into your liver from your intestines. And your body breaks it down and converts it into another source of vitamins or nutrients. However, branched chain amino acids, studies and research has proven, it will bypass your liver and go straight to your muscles. So that way it prevents muscle breakdown. Or I don't want to say prevents it, but it slows it down for you. So you actually are going to spare your muscle wasting. And that will allow you to actually burn more fat too. So that's a little tidbit for you guys also. Now, oops. All right, so 5 Gs, 5 grams, once again, that's all your red blood cells and your brain needs to actually operate properly. But once again, that sugar will come from fats and proteins, primarily fats. Now, sugar is everywhere, guys, and I like this source because what is that? Yes, that is a Chick-fil-A sandwich. I know what you guys are saying right now, like, man, those things are so tasty, but that should kind of shock you right there. And think about it. You don't see this amount of sugar that you're consuming in a Chick-fil-A sandwich because it's going to be embedded into the bread itself primarily for this. And then of course this is a piece of fried chicken, so it's breaded too, and that's going to equal sugar too. Once again, let's go back to this example. Sugar is sugar, guys. It's going to take lots of shapes and form. Just because it doesn't properly really taste like pure sugar, it really still is sugar, because there are lots of types of sugar. We have complex sugars, we have simple sugars. This is going to be considered more like a complex sugar because your body is going to take a lot longer for it to break down. And when it takes a lot longer for it to break down, you're not going to taste the sweetness of it as much as if you were to put, a spoonful of this into your mouth. So keep that in mind, please. Now, this is the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away. Well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest is the reason why we are consuming so much sugar and dying from so much excessive sugar is because of our lack of knowledge. Food manufacturers is one of the highest grossing, industries in the world. And, they pretty much, you got to look at grocery stores as nothing but a big supermarket, or not supermarket, but a big mall, because food advertisers are doing nothing but marketing to you as you walk into the store. They do product placement, they do consumer behavior. They try to figure out what's going to make you buy a certain thing when you walk into the grocery store. But you know what? They are probably one of the best marketers on the face of the earth. With me being a marketer, I applaud them for doing this because they it works for them. You gotta understand. There's a reason why they put very convenient candy and chips right by the checkout line when you go to grocery stores or you're leaving the grocery store because you're more prevalent to just pick up something that very portable and convenient, and just it's a quick, easy, simple price. But Wrigley gum made itself by being right there where it's at in checkout lines because they knew even if it was 25 cents for 5 pieces of gum, over time, based off of quality, not quantity, you're going to constantly buy that over and over again. And that's what made them, Wrigley Gum who they are. Not only that, but other food manufacturers too as well. So be very aware of how food companies are, marketing to you. And I'll be scheduling grocery store tours later on that will kind of go more into emphasis in that. Or, I'll probably do a webinar also to help you guys out too. But they truly are one of the best marketing companies in the world, which is actually profiting tremendously off of us. And food manufacturers are able to make it the number one ingredient in processed foods. Processed foods have about 99% of the number one ingredient is sugar. And I love this quote from Martin Luther King, pretty much about ignorance, where he says, "Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Because it's not to offend anyone. It's just to be real, guys. We gotta be real with ourselves. But we don't have enough information to make the right decision. So what we do mainly? We do what's called a herd mentality. We do what majority of the people are doing. And if we're doing what majority of people are doing, look at what majority of people are doing right now here in the States. We're overweight. Obesity is on the up and coming. It's on the rise. People are dying from things that can be prevented easily. Obesity is there's about 60% of people are overweight, and obesity is considered 30 pounds overweight based off of statistical data, which is about probably close to 40-50% now. So think about half the world, or pretty much the world is on the same up and running too. But people are getting, sick of these issues of not knowing what's right for them, and people are profiting off it. And it's pretty amazing, guys, that people profit more off people who are sick and dying than those who are, more knowledgeable about it. And that's why they don't want us. And it's kind of going to, a little bit of what's it called? Controversy, not controversy. I guess controversy, where there's more money to be made off a sick person than a healthy person. So keep that in mind. But, food manufacturers are smarter than us because they're hiding it in foods and we don't know. So, I can't remember how many, but there's probably over 82 names of sugar. There's glucose, there's fructose, there's, malt, there's syrups, there's corn syrup, there's, I don't know. There's so many names. I'll definitely have to send that to you guys if you guys are interested. But that's the biggest problem is we're trying to buy health, or trying to buy health is different than buying healthy. We see things on the foods, what do they call it? The food shelves that say it's healthy for us when those are probably the worst things for us. And another problem is this is the biggest one. We know sugar is bad, but we still eat it. So once again, the truth will set us free while the lives will enslave us. Now, why is all this stuff important? Because sugar is the most addicting chemical on the planet, and it allows companies to use inferior products to spike their profits. So what they're doing is they're taking rancid foods that have no nutrient value, which without sugar, as a number one ingredient, will practically be almost like us eating non-edible food or spoiled food. But once again, think about it. If you're able to take food that's spoiled and rancid, you can still sell it. You can still make money off it. The question is, why would they stop doing that? They're not, because we're going to keep buying. It's called law of supply and demand. And I'm definitely I love business, and I'm a businessman, and it is what it is. It's business until there's a law that kind of prohibits excess added sugar into foods, which I will say would never happen. Guess what? they're still going to do it because we're still going to buy. And this is the scary thought is, sugar kills more people than the tobacco industry. And sugar markets is still marketing to people and killing people every single day. And, eventually they put disclaimers on tobacco, but they're not going to do it on sugar because, you know what, there's so much money to be made in the sugar industry itself. Now, what contains sugar? Pretty much everything, guys. Everything contains sugar. Now, this is the biggest thing. And, guys, we're almost finished with this, and I'll get into the 4 reasons how to overcome sugar. But this is, and once again, I'll be answering any questions that you guys have later on. So just hang tight with me, please. But why we crave sugar? Oops. Number one reason why we crave sugar because it's an ancient craving. Our bodies naturally like sugar, and that's why we go to it for that happy, positive response. And not only that, but it helps us get fat too. Like I said earlier, getting fat is one of the best things that was ever happened to any type of animal and man. The only problem is we neglected that gene in our bodies and we don't turn off the fat gene. We keep it on 24/7, and that's why we don't know how to turn it off, which is what we're going to focus on today. But we need to figure out how to turn those things off. And then also our bodies like to get fat. Kind of talk about that. And it's really because it's a primal instinct. Once again, our genes have not changed very much at all since probably over 100,000 years ago. And that's when 100,000 years ago is when we started having the advent of agriculture. And it's just shown that our bodies have not changed much since then. But sugar is becoming too prevalent, guys. And it's not necessarily a bad response if from a whole food response, but food isn't nutrient rich as it was before. Our soil is depleted of nutrients. The foods that we're consuming nowadays are being shipped from so far away across the whole world, get into our tables, which means it's lacking nutrients too. So if it's lacking nutrients and we need excess nutrients, guess what? We need to consume a lot more of it. So that's why I would say we need to increase our exercise levels too. But at the same time, we don't want to do too much exercise. But I would definitely recommend trying to eat whole, organic, local foods as much as possible. But there is a difference from eating a whole organic, piece of apple compared to just having, a spoonful of sugar or a spoonful of honey, because one is going to have nutrients more than the other, obviously. Now, this is the biggest thing. We're eating too much refined sugar, and it's natural once again to have natural sugar cravings. Believe it or not, all animals have sugar cravings, but when you're out in nature, guess what? Your sugar is going to come from mainly fruits and vegetables, not this refined crap that we're creating in laboratory somewhere, which is causing us to actually crave more of it. Because the best way to crave your sugar cravings, which we're going to get into, but the biggest thing is to satisfy your body's nutrient needs from the foods that you're actually consuming. No. So, do you want to know why diets fail? If yes, say yes. All right. And yes, it is because of sugar. Sugar is the reason why diets fail. Diets fail because of sugar. So let's get to business, guys. We're going to go over these 4 ways to overcome sugar cravings. I want to thank you guys for being patient with me, but I definitely had to go over some history of sugar because I definitely want you guys to have some type of takeaway from it. And once again, we'll answer any questions later on also. Now, number one way to overcome sugar cravings is adding foods that balance blood sugar. Now, foods that balance blood sugar are foods that don't produce insulin. Pretty much the only food substance that doesn't produce insulin is going to be fats. Proteins do release insulin. However, it takes quite a bit of insulin or protein to actually release insulin. Now, carbohydrates will release some insulin pretty quickly. So I want you consuming a diet that's very, very high and heavy on fat intake. Your diet should be around 80%. I'm trying to figure out where I can find this little, I can't remember what it's called, little marker things I can write on here, but I'll play around later. But 80% of your nutrients and calories, for this matter, should come from fats alone. So oils, nuts, seeds, animal skins, mainly animal fats is going to be your best source. Coconut oil is huge. Red palm oils are huge. Olive oils. Consume as much of that in a day that you can without an excess of carbohydrates, because once again, carbohydrates is going to lead to that excess weight. So foods that keep your blood sugar stable, once again, blood, proteins, oh, and fibers too. Fibers will help keep you full. That's the reason why that's mainly on here. And if you're full, you're not going to have those crashes of what's it called? Sugar crashes throughout the day. And I'll send you guys a list of great foods also too. Number 2, remove sugar, and grains from your diet. Addiction pretty much is from what you're doing. So what do? Do the opposite. So just stop eating sugar. Stop eating sugar and start eating foods that are very, very high in nutrient value. Refined sugar and grains don't have nutritional value. So when you eat those, your body is pretty much like, hey, where's all the nutrients at? So it's going to keep your metabolism searching for more food and keep your hunger, which is actually released by a hormone called ghrelin, keep your hunger hormone, keep it elevated as it kind of keeps you craving for more food. So the more you eat, the more you crave. So the more sugar you eat, the more you're going to crave. And the sad thing about it is the more sugar you eat, the less you taste it. The less you taste it, the more you're going to eat it. The first couple of days of doing this are going to be extremely hard. And the best tip I can give you is use stevia leaves in tea to help. Because natural stevia leaves are extremely sweet. And that will kind of crave your body until you kind of get enough nutrients in your body to help you with those sugar cravings too. Number 3, take the right supplements. These are some of the best supplements you can possibly do to help you with your sugar cravings. Chromium. It has a couple names. There's called dual source chromium, chromium picolinate. There's another one too. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'll send it to you guys later. But chromium will stabilize your blood sugar. Once again, if your blood sugar is extremely high, it's going to almost force your body's insulin to jump up. And then when all that blood sugar leaves your bloodstream so quickly, you have that immediate crash in energy. What you want is it to where if you do have sugar in your bloodstream, that your body is going to either have it go to your liver to be burned off, or it's going to go to your muscles to be burned off. But if it gets pulled out of your bloodstream too quickly, you have that crash in energy. So that's why if you have a very big sugary meal, you always have that crash. And that's why you hear about the mid-afternoon crashes, because what do most people have at lunch when they're at work? Yes, they have those carb-loaded foods, those pastas, the pizza. I see that all the time. I mean, think about why the mall is so popular. They have all that crappy carbohydrate foods. Next, probiotics. Probiotics will remove yeast and bad bacteria. That's the New York in me. Bad bacteria from your gut. And the reason why that's important because bad bacteria actually feeds off of sugar. And what else feeds off of sugar? Yes, we talked about it earlier. Cancer. Cancer will feed sugar cells. Bacteria and cancer love sugar. And you got to understand, 90% of your immune system is actually based off of your in your gut system. And that's why your gut system, whatever you eat, will change the way you think and act and cause all those hormonal imbalances, as well as all of those mood swings too. So if you definitely have any of those issues, please start consuming probiotic supplements. And if you can, please start fermenting foods too. And I'll do a webinar on that later on also, because it will change so much. This is probably the most important one too. Glutamine next is actually a non-essential amino acid, so your body doesn't need it. Your body will actually take other amino acids, which is a makeup of protein, and actually help you with that. Glutamine will actually repair your gut system. So when you don't have probiotics in your system, all that bad food, like the sugar, will actually kind of like scar up your intestinal walls, and glutamine will help repair it, because if that inflammation occurs, inflammation will cause stress. And when you have excess stress, it will lead to you consuming more sugar because your body's kind of out of a whack for that matter. Cinnamon is kind of similar to chromium. It'll help stabilize your blood sugar, and herbal teas too are a great way to help you with kind of relieving any sugar cravings that you have. A great tandem right there is taking teas. I recommend like a caffeinated tea and putting a cinnamon stick in it, and I tell you, it will ward off any type of sugar craving that you have. I've done it for 3-4 years now, and it has worked remarkably. Now, last one is exercising. Now, exercising the right way. Too much exercise or the wrong exercise will make you crave sugar. Main reason why is because it kind of goes back with the stress. Too much stress will increase your cortisol, and cortisol will actually increase your body's insulin response, and it'll actually start making you crave sugar. Now, the best types of exercise that I recommend are going to be weight training. Weight training, whether it be you doing any type of form of heavy weightlifting program, Olympic weightlifting program, or a high intensity interval training program, or HIIT training. HIIT training would be something like Fit Body Boot Camp, CrossFit. What else? There's dance programs that are high intensity interval training. All those are considered high intensity interval training. They're actually forms of training where you're gonna get your heart rate elevated, but it's going to drop down more to not to back to your base level, but enough for help you recover and then jump right back up again. Because our bodies are based off of intervals, just like the rest of the world is. We have sun, we have night and day, we have seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. So our bodies have to interact that way, because if it's only one way, then guess what? Eventually it's going to lead to breakdown, such as long distance. Long distance running is another example, or doing the same thing over and over again. People know that as considered insanity. But long distance or excessive exercise places stress on the body. Didn't finish that, but which will lead to sugar cravings too. Now, just go over a summary of what we talked about. 4 ways to overcome your sugar cravings. Adding foods that will balance your blood sugar. And if you want more information on that, you can email me for type of foods. Removing sugar and grains from your diet, taking the right supplements, and exercising the right way. Now, what I want to ask you is if you're interested in learning how to accelerate your results. And if you say yes, I'll go into that, because it's all about the sugar detox. So sugar detox, what is that going to pertain to? Sugar detox is pretty much where we're going to actually remove toxins from the body. Excess sugar is considered a toxin from the body. Consuming processed foods that have additives and preservatives are going to lead to you holding on to toxins in your body. And the biggest thing is, the most important thing to your health is stabilizing your blood sugar, which we kind of talked about not long ago.